Introducing cats is hard work, so I'm going to take you through 3 common mistakes that lots of people make that can stop you making progress. I'm Lucy Hoyle, I'm a cat behaviourist and author of the book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read, which is available now. I feel like I've introduced a million cats in my life. Obviously, it's not that many, but sometimes it goes super smoothly, sometimes it's more challenging, it can take a long, long time. So, along the way, I've picked up these little things that may have worked for some people, but are more risky and often have resulted in a breakdown in the relationship with the cats or like a roadblock in terms of helping them get along better. So, the first thing that I would recommend avoiding is just to put 2 cats together and see how it goes. Now, lots of people will say that's what worked for their cats and that's what they recommend other people would do. But just because it has worked for one doesn't necessarily mean it would work for others. And also, what someone feels has gone well may have actually been pretty stressful for that cat. So if you put 2 cats together, yeah, they fought for a bit, they hissed at each other, they were chasing, they were fighting, but eventually they got used to each other. That's so stressful for the cats that are involved. And what you'll probably find is if you had done it in a more gradual way, probably would have still got to the end point and that they're getting on together, but would have avoided all the stress in between. So be wary with this sort of way of introducing. Also, lumped in with this, I would also not recommend people putting their cats in a carrier or one cat in the carrier and then putting that in a room and letting the other cat approach. I know this is recommended a lot with kittens, and like I say, it has worked in the past for lots of people, but this is very, very risky for the cat in the carrier because they've got no control. They've got nowhere to escape to. They've got nowhere to hide. They're just in this box with other cats approaching them. And it's super stressful and really not like, how would you feel if you were that cat? So I would just be very wary of this. Like at best, your other cat on the outside won't mind and they'll go over and they'll be friendly and it will go okay. That's best case scenario. They're not going to be best friends with this method of introduction. Worst case scenario, which I've seen so many times and it's horrible, is the cat on the outside is hissing, is growling, is trying to get into the carrier, and the cat on the inside is also starts to panic, wants to escape, is hissing, also like almost screaming. You know that like caterwauly noise they do. So obviously, if you get to that point, if your cats are one of the ones that goes in that direction, then first impressions count. And what are you going to do after that? Like that's not going to work. And if you open the carrier, there's probably going to be a full-on fight, and now you're in a really bad position in terms of trying to help them get along and following like a gradual introduction that way. So do this at your peril because I would not recommend just because of that risk. I think if you're doing it with kittens, it's much more likely to be successful, especially if it's 2 kittens that are only like a few weeks apart. So that can go a bit better. So what I find works pretty well is to keep cats separate at the beginning, give them time to settle in, and then start a gradual introduction through a barrier. So the barrier can be like a glass door, a fly screen. Some people use a baby gate, but you have to be careful they don't jump over it. And then can begin gradually to get them used to each other that way. But this brings me on to the second mistake, because with this setup, what people often do is use their cat's food to start off far apart, but gradually bring the cats closer and closer together using their meals until you have the barrier there, one cat here eating their meal, one cat there eating their meal. And I get the idea around this. So the theory is, of course, they're going to associate their food, like the positive experience of eating, with the presence of the other cat. And I get the science there. However, for a cat, what we have to remember is that they're solitary eaters. They don't want to eat with a group. They don't hunt together. They don't eat together. They don't share food. So by doing this, what we're doing is making it challenging for them to be with the other cat because we're forcing them to be together because they want the food when they don't actually want to be that close. And any positive experience they're getting from this is void because now it's stressful to eat. And I feel like we shouldn't be like setting criteria for cats to have their meals. We don't want to make that a stressful experience. Have your meal on your own in peace, and that's totally stress free, and you can be happy there. And let's use treats instead, and let's not get them so close because we don't. They don't need to be this close together. That's not an indicator that it's going well because they can be that close together because they're probably not going to be that close together regardless. So what we want is we want them to be far from the barrier. Yes, we want them to see each other, so that's fine, but we need it to be low pressure, and we don't want to set such high demands on them. Like if you want this treat, you have to be this close because they might do it because they want the treat, but they don't necessarily want to be that close. That doesn't actually mean that they're getting along well with the other cat. So These sorts of meetings with barriers in between, use food as in treats, but not meals, and let's reward them for just being there, being part of the room, and getting to know the other cat from afar, because that can really be helpful, and not making it so difficult for them to get the treat. What I've seen in this scenario is cats that were doing well until they were having to be so close to the other cat. Then they're having their treats or they're eating their food there, but they're hissing or they're swiping at each other, and we're sort of encouraging negative behaviours. So let's encourage them to be apart, reward them with the treats, and use treats more as a distraction rather than a lure to get them together. And the third thing that can result in things going a bit wrong is to just sit back and watch what happens. Because often this will happen once you've opened the barrier and you're like, okay, right, now's the time, let's open the barrier and see how it goes. And so everyone opens the barrier and just sits there and watch what happens. And sometimes one cat will run through and chase the other one, or there might be nothing that happens, or they might go off in separate directions or whatever. But what we really need to be doing is being super proactive in these meetings. So if you're worried one cat's going to go over to the other one and spook them, then we need to keep that cat distracted. So we need things to hand. We need treats, we need toys, we need to be involved. We need to be sitting between them if we need to, one playing this side and someone else playing the other side, so that the cats aren't focused on each other. It's not a super high pressure situation, it's a low pressure situation, because we're just over here playing a game, we're just over here having some treats. Yeah, there are other cats in the room, but it's not a big deal. So when we just sit back and like watch what happens, all the energy is focused on the cats. They haven't really got any other option than to focus on each other, and it can just sometimes go pear-shaped. And again, the risk is they're not going to get along so well. So what I would say is be proactive and also encourage them to be apart. That's like the crux of it. You need tons of beds, plenty of resting areas. Sit down, get one on your lap, and let them do that stuff. It doesn't have to be a meeting where you're getting to know your brother, so go and play with him. It's just that they need to be in the same room together, doing their own thing. That's like the ideal, because probably what you're not going to see at this point is them snuggling up together on the sofa. So what we're aiming for is encouraging them to be apart in the same room, keeping things super calm. Once you've got that, and once they're settled, once one is settled and the other one's okay, then you can keep that meeting going as long as you need. You'll have a lot more success this way because you're keeping things from escalating and the pressure's off. So if you just leave them to their own devices, what you might find is that they're staring at each other, things are escalating, you might find there's a chase. Whereas if you're there to diffuse the tension, keep them occupied, encouraging them to do something else, get them to sit in a bed or sit in a lap, then you're helping things go a lot more smoothly, you're setting up good habits, and you're helping them get to know each other in a really low pressure way. But be reassured that you won't have to do this forever. The more time you spend with them in the same room with those distractions to hand, the more you'll understand about their behaviour. So if you notice that they both don't care about each other and they just settle in their own beds and do their own thing, then that's amazing. You can be reassured that you're pretty close to leaving them unsupervised and extending their time they spend together. But if you find that you're constantly having to distract another cat from chasing the other one, or especially if you've got a kitten, if you're constantly having to keep that kitten's behaviour under wraps because they want to chase your other cat, then you know that these supervised times are going to last a lot longer and you're going to have to put in more effort to do that. But you definitely will be setting them up for success and getting their relationship off on the right track. If you want to know more about how to introduce your cats, there's a whole chapter on multi-cat households in my book, The Book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read, which is available here. And I will be doing another video on introducing cats later on, so don't forget to subscribe if you are interested in watching that later on. But if you are introducing your cats, good luck. It's hard work. I hope you get there in the end. Do let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Take care.